I somehow ran into I was actually went off and found Jeet Kune Do. I found an actual Jeet Kune Do instructor, like one of the guys that had learned from Bruce. And that was interesting, but it wasn't quite what I was looking for. It wasn't what I thought it would be at this point in, 2000 and whatever. And then I saw some UFCs and I went, I got to see what this is all about. And some of the old UFCs and then I found, MMA and yeah, I mean, that like, I think that just changed my life because suddenly like I really did start feeling better, like between that. And then when I founded the company, which was completely based on the fact that I loved jiu-jitsu and I wanted to make something for the community, something that would be useful, improve our gear and something people would really appreciate and it would serve them well. Between those two things, starting training and founding the company, my anxiety and all that crap just disappeared.
What is going on? Welcome back to Jiu-Jitsu Outlet. I'm sitting down with a martial artist and a martial arts business owner, the creator of Datsusara, Mr. Chris Odell. What is up, Chris? How are you doing, man?
Not as much. Yeah, thank you. It's good to be here. And yeah, mostly doing well. Just kind of reacclimating and trying to get back into jiu-jitsu myself. I took a lot of years off, so I'm kind of like it's been a struggle to get back in the habit as much as I want to be out there. Although my daughter's doing a better job of it than I am, but that's because I can also force her to go even on the days she doesn't want to go. So
it's interesting. Like since I started becoming a teacher, I've now become a lot more consistent with my own training because now I have to be there because now I'm teaching the kids. And if I'm teaching the kids, well, the adults are rolling in right after and I'm teaching that class too. So might as well teach, and it's like, but there's been a lot of days where I just definitely won't feel like it. And I'll think to myself, like, if I wasn't teaching today, I definitely would not be here. And,
it's easy to do. And I think when it was my primary focus outside of work, or really it was my primary focus, work was the secondary. Once I got once I got more of a the family life going, and then I got into golf, which took me by surprise. I moved back to a town for a while that didn't really have a jiu-jitsu place nearby, and I went, well, all right, I'll do something else for a little while, and and I got out of the habit, but I tell you, I miss the community in a way first. I miss the people. They're still like the jiu-jitsu people are more my people than anybody. And I miss that connection a lot with folks. I miss the training a bit just in the results that I got from it. It's been harder to say, yeah, you know what, especially when I have golf, I'm like, hey, I could go play a sport outdoors in the open air and not have to stress on people trying to kill me and just relax today. Or I could go sit in a smelly indoor gym and do that. But result wise, like how I feel from training jiu-jitsu, I miss that a lot. Like there's a clear headedness and a real full body workout that I find that I got from jiu-jitsu that I really can't, for me, I can't get anywhere else because I'm not good at just forcing myself to go into like a gym or something. And even then it's not the same. Yeah. I mean, jiu-jitsu it clears the head, it clears the body. And oddly enough too, the few classes that I did, when I did start coming back a little bit, my body felt better. And I thought, oh man, I'm messed up because I've been feeling like I'm old lately. Like my back hurts, my hips hurt, and I'm not even training. And when I did start training a little bit again, I thought it was going to hurt even more. I thought, I'm just screwed. But actually, it's almost like it woke something up in my system and got me to heal a little better. And I was on a better track. So now I just got to get back in there. Like I said, it's been hard to get just back in the, like, you know what? No, we're going today. I don't care how you feel. And I become the Goldilocks of training where I'm like, well, I'd go, except it's right around lunch or, but I got this other thing. And, if they just had one at exactly 10:30 and maybe 2:30, oh yeah, sure. But yeah, I got to figure out a way to make that work. So
yeah,
I'm working on it. Yeah,
it's a journey, I think. And there's sometimes where you need to take a break from it, and sometimes where it's time to go hard. And it varies from person to person for sure. But dude, I want to talk a little bit today about Datsusara, your company. I've actually got one of your bags right here, the Fortune and Glory satchel, which I've decorated with this cat right here. And I love this thing, man. I use it all the time. And I also have my Datsusara wallet here inside my Datsusara Fortune and Glory satchel.
Nice.
And I don't have it here, but I also have the fungus gi, which I wear all the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've got a ton of your products. So I want to talk about Datsusara. But first, before we talk about Datsusara, I want to ask you the question that I ask everyone on the show, which is, how do you feel training in the martial arts has impacted your mental health?
Yeah, definitely positively. Before I founded Datsusara, I was mostly doing video productions, a lot of video editing, so a lot of time at the screen. Um, I was getting like this weird generalized anxiety, and I had never had that in my life. I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. I was sitting there going like, this because I did too much acid when I was a kid, or I was smoking. Like, what's going on? Like, why am I suddenly freaking out going to the corner store? Like it would hit at the weirdest times. It wasn't all. Sometimes it was socially triggered, and I went, maybe I'm just getting weird. But then other times I could just be sitting by myself at home, and I'm like, oh my god, I think I'm gonna die. And it was just dumbest thing anyway. So I started getting. I had a friend that was playing tennis, started doing that a little bit. And that was helping, got some weight down, but I don't know, I wasn't quite there yet. And then I somehow ran into I went off and found Jeet Kune Do. I found an actual Jeet Kune Do instructor, like one of the guys that had learned from Bruce. And that was interesting, but it wasn't quite what I was looking for. It wasn't what I thought it would be at this point in, 2000 and whatever. And then I saw some UFCs, and I went, I got to see what this is all about, and some of the old UFCs, and I found MMA, and yeah, I mean that like I think that just changed my life, because suddenly like I really did start feeling better, like between that and then when I founded the company, which was completely based on the fact that I loved jiu-jitsu and I wanted to make something for the community, something that would be useful, improve our gear, and something people would really appreciate and it would serve them well. Between those two things, starting training and founding the company, my anxiety and all that crap just disappeared. So I'm convinced it was mental. So yes, so I think it was really critical. It was a key component in feeling better. And even now I've noticed that, all that time off that I was mentioning, things have started to come back that aren't good in my head, where I'm like, man, why can't I just can't clear my head like I used to. I don't know what's going on. And really, I think jiu-jitsu is the only thing that really has done it. So yeah, it's got a very big impact. So yeah, I think it's very important.
Yeah, man. I think that's so well said. It kind of just clears the brain, and it helps so much with anxiety. Why do you think that is? Like, is there any specific thing that you could point to that does it?
I mean, there's some basic things. I believe you're releasing endorphins and other things when you're going and training, and that helps. I think it's also some of it's just sheer exhaustion. You don't have all this extra energy with nowhere to go, and some of it's too is just really having like a real thing that you have to face. Like, oh, here's an actual threat. I'm going to deal with it, win or lose. At least I know where I stand. You're not sitting around and imagining what could be in the future. It also makes you very present. I mean, when you're rolling, for me, I'm rarely am I thinking about something about next week or my laundry list of crap that I need to do or whatever. I mean, yeah, sure. When you get really good and you're rolling with some, brand new white belt, although really you should be watching out for that. But sometimes you can be a little more distracted and less present, maybe. But for me, I am very, 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 very present, and in a way that not too many things that I can think of in life really focus the mind that way. And I think that helps you with things like anxiety, or even probably depression too. Same thing. It brings you back to here as opposed to back here, there, or whatever. And, letting the monkey mind just run its course. It gives you a focus.
Yeah. It's like a Zen practice of mindfulness, so to speak.
Absolutely.
It's powerful, man. Martial arts have a way of kind of unlocking that really easily, kind of getting you into that Zen meditative state without you having to be spending 30 years studying Zen Buddhism or something like that. But man, I just want to shift gears a little bit. How did you feel? What made you want to start Datsusara? Which, for people that don't know, like, you make some of the best bags and some of the best gis in the whole world, honestly. And I love your stuff.
Thank you.
And always recommend it to people. And whenever I have more money, probably going to end up buying more of the stuff. So you've done a great job. And from what I've gathered, like you do well enough that you can basically fuel your lifestyle utilizing this brand. And that's something that like a lot of people want to get into these days. So can you break it down a little bit for us? Let's say there's someone listening who wants to start some sort of a business around jiu-jitsu or around their passion in life, really. What tips would you give them kind of in today's market? I know that's kind of a big question, but I think you're the man for the job here. Like, let's say they're starting out. What would you say to that person?
I actually get a lot of this because I actually still advise a number of people, some that are coming from jiu-jitsu, and then a lot of just people that I just meet in life that are going like, hey, I see what you're doing and I've been thinking about starting a business and how can we do that? So like even tomorrow night, I've got some friends coming over and we're going to go through the whole, how everything works and, all the basic stuff. So I do answer this a lot. It has changed a lot in some ways since I started, because that was back in 2007. And there was, in some ways, I mean, it was a bigger barrier to entry because the software and things to create a website and e-commerce site was a lot more complicated back then in a lot of ways, until Shopify started doing well and that became a really viable alternative. So when I started, I really just did it pretty much kind of very part-time. I said, okay, I've got just enough. I was never one of these people with like a big savings account because I just, I lived pretty much hand to mouth. And so I had about $3,000 saved up, and I just had this idea for, more of us for a product. I said, you know what? I don't want to do what I'm doing anymore. It's not feeling good, but I love jiu-jitsu. And I was staring at like our bags and I'm going, man, these things are crap. They're plastic crap. All they are is like a Nike bag. And they said, oh, we're going to repurpose it for MMA and slap a different label on it. And here you go. And they didn't change the pockets. They didn't change the materials, nothing. And I thought of one of my older loves, which was hemp textiles, which I always thought had been underutilized. And when they did get utilized, it was always in like, hippie gear or whatever, and something that most of the public was never going to be interested in. And I thought, well, I wonder if I can make a good bag out of that, because I had an old hemp backpack that was just fantastic. It lasted forever. It didn't get, you could put sweaty stuff in there and it would still kind of stay aired out. It didn't get stinky. I just I sat and, thought about what I'd want out of a duffel bag and what pocket size. Like, okay, this has got to fit the MMA gloves. This has got to fit the boxing gloves, maybe a little spot for the mouth guard, stuff like that. Kind of arranged it. And, I used to just draw them out on graph paper actually for my manufacturers, because I didn't really have I didn't have a technical designer. So I would sit there and draw like, okay, one square is a centimeter or an inch or whatever, and design it all out and then try to have them fill in the blanks. But yeah, I took that $3,000 made at the time. I was able to make 100 bags for that. That would not go that far now. But yeah, and I did that, and I just kind of, I gave a lot of them away. I sold a couple to people in my gym and stuff, and got some reviews finally going online, which helped a lot. Back in the day, that was on SureDog and stuff, just word of mouth. And for the first 4 years, I just kept turning that money over. Every time we made any profit, since I was still working my other job kind of, part-time, any profit, I just turned it back into the company. And it took me about 4 years until I was able to actually support my lifestyle and live, just from the company, which I kind of wish I would have done. I could have done it sooner. I sort of wish I would have, because I think I would have focused more on the company and gotten more done. But I was definitely a little bit concerned that, what if I start taking too much money out of this and then I tank the company, which did not happen at all. But it was a concern for a while. But either way, it might take a little while when you start it off. I think one of the things a couple of the things, I mean, for me, I like to have a product focused company. I'm not great at marketing. As a matter of fact, that's still our, if we have a weakness, it's probably the marketing. Just as far as a general focus, it's not a thing I like to do. I don't like to run ads and stuff. I like to make a really, really high quality product, something that I know is going to be good, and then just hope that people are going to recognize that, and there are going to be other people like me looking for something similar and find that. And I find that sets you apart too, because anybody can whip up, the brand, another gi with a different brand name on it. It's going to be cut close to the rest of them. And if you're just doing the same old cotton gi or whatever, it's pretty much the same thing. So, I mean, you can get away with that if you're just great at marketing and people just love your brand. Okay, cool. I mean, that can work too. But for me, I wanted something that was different and just better. So it worked for me. And I think it caught on pretty good. I'm actually trying to do that again right now in the golf market. Since that's my other fun thing now. Been a little harder to get that to catch on, oddly enough. I think I just hit a sweet spot too with the whole world of MMA and jiu-jitsu, and we got aligned with the right people at the right time. And, Joe Rogan was talking about us, Tim Ferriss was talking about us, a number of people that kind of like, it was a good time when EBI was really big. And then we finally did start running ads like at EBI. That was huge. I mean, that was such a cool thing. But yeah, I think people starting now, the good thing is it's a lot easier. Like you can, with a minimal investment, you could go start a Shopify store and just try it out. You could probably spend a couple grand making a product that you like. Let's say, start a Shopify website. It's not going to take you a ton of time. You probably won't need to hire other programmers necessarily if you're just the basic level of tech savvy. And you could try something and just see how it goes. See if you can get the word out and see if people like it. If it fails, you're not spending $50,000 if you do it right. That's my other thing is I've always run a tight ship. To this day, we don't have a big office with a ton of people. It's pretty much myself and Ben Charles, who he runs pretty much all the day-to-day, like, the basic customer service, marketing, all that basic kind of front-facing stuff. And then I'm dealing with the production and the business side. And that we're the only two full-time employees. Everybody else is, kind of on call when I need a technical designer. I'll go out and get that done. And we have a fulfillment warehouse that just handles the orders that come in and stuff. So there's a way you can run a pretty tight ship and not spend a lot of money and try this out, which I think that's good. I mean, at some point, yeah, maybe if you want to get really, really big, you're going to have to run it more like a standard company, I suppose, and get giant investments and run, many, many thousands of dollars of ads a month and that kind of thing. But it can be, you can support a lifestyle and do all right and offer a quality product and sleep good at night, feeling like you did something good for the world. And with, it is possible. It's easier to start now and maybe a little hard to get traction because even in the jiu-jitsu world, there's a ton of gi companies now and stuff like that just popping up all the time. So that's become a little more difficult, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So we got time for like one more big question. And, I'd love to get your take on this. So this is where I feel like most people run into trouble when they're starting off a business. And this is honestly something that I've really struggled with, which is like creating the product, creating the thing that you're selling and figuring out like, okay, what exactly am I doing? And how exactly am I making it great? And something that I've thought about a lot is like, if only I had the absolutely perfect product, I could sell it to the moon, I feel like. And I think that's how a lot of people feel like. But then getting the product together is really the hard part because you have to have connections. You have to have money a lot of times. So let's say hypothetically there's a aspiring jiu-jitsu entrepreneur out there listening to this, someone who wants to do something in martial arts, vaguely, and they want to create a cool product. And they're not quite sure what kind of product, but they know that they want to create, a product. So what tips would you give them regarding kind of getting together that most viable product? And most importantly, like, how do you find someone to make this thing for you? Because any of us could dream up some crazy idea in our head for the perfect product, but like, how do you actually get it made?
So that is definitely a really hard part of the equation. And these days, maybe more so. When I started, there were a number of websites where you could reach out to manufacturers overseas. I think at the time it was Trade Key. That was before Alibaba. And Alibaba used to be more for hooking you up with manufacturers. And now I think it's half for selling stuff or whatever. But so there were a couple of ways to find people back then, but it wasn't easy. And in fact, I mean, I went through 2 or 3 different people who, oh, yeah, we can make you a hemp gi, we can make a hemp bag, and they'd sell me like weird stuff. It was clearly polyester or something else, and it was all just nonsense. And it took me a while before I found the first person who actually tried their best to do it and was willing to make 100 bags. Cause like right now you go to some manufacturers, say, I want 100 units of something. They're like, get out of here. We don't, we want to do thousands. Especially because everybody's just making plastic, cheap, whatever. And so they don't care because each unit costs them $5 or something, if that. So making 1,000 is not a big deal at that point. But if you're making something nice, that can be a really difficult thing to get up to that minimum order quantity where they're happy with it. But you can find them. That is a good question. I don't even know. I mean, a lot of people come through me for that, but it's tough because I can't even really recommend people over, because my manufacturer will get pissed at me if I just send them every person who has an idea and wants a prototype. That can be tough. But sometimes they will, and maybe they'll charge you for the prototype. But even then, you might need a technical designer, depending on what it is. A lot of these manufacturers, when you do find them, if you have a basic idea of what you want and it's something that they've done, something before, like if it's a gi, if it's a bags, okay, they can fill in the blanks. If you go, well, I want to change this and that, can you make me something, make a prototype, and we'll go from there. And some companies are willing to do that and take a risk. And yeah, maybe they'll charge you a couple $100 or something, but then you can at least try it. But yeah, finding them in the first place these days, it's hard because I also hate to send people to China. I mean, I still work with some small companies there because I'm actually working again on finding people in the US, but it's been really, really hard to find people here. There's very few. They usually want really, really big orders too. And sometimes the quality of work isn't that good either. So I just happen to have met a lot of people in China that were working in smaller companies that really hate their government as much as I hate it. And we do our best to get around things and just make a quality product. But it's hard because like if you're making gis, you're going to end up in either China or Pakistan. That's pretty much it. And I definitely don't recommend Pakistan. Gosh, just where to find them other than asking around from other people that I mean, you'd be surprised sometimes how many people know someone who's produced something and might know a manufacturer.
Yeah, for sure.
And like in the cases of things like technical design for a bag or clothing or whatever, I mean, I know people, so when I'm advising people, if it's something where like I can get my technical designer, he'll whip up a design for anybody as long as you're paying him a reasonable rate. So that part can be done a little bit easier. You can get that done in the States. Finding the manufacturers these days might be a bigger challenge, but I suspect there's probably still some legitimate websites. Maybe Alibaba is still one that you could look for a manufacturer and find one. Maybe, these days, probably even just on LinkedIn, I bet you could find one. It's just vetting them out and trying to do the homework to go, all right, who else have they done work for? Can I trust these guys? You want to be careful how much money you're sending them before you get real prototypes. Sure. And check that they can speak reasonably good English. I mean, it's not usually a big problem, but yeah, you just want to vet them out as much as you can. But it helps if you can find someone like myself who's done it and you can, talk to as an advisor and go, hey, does this seem legit? What's going on? So yeah, I wish I had a better answer than that on that one, because I get it. That can be one of the hardest parts. You're right. But I think the main thing too is, just at least get the idea figured out, flesh it out as much as you can, and don't be worried about people stealing your idea too much. I mean, I get a lot of people like that. Oh, I don't want to show these guys this because they're going to steal my idea. And, I've almost never seen that happen. Yeah. And don't worry. Right. Yeah. And I'd also say, don't worry about it being perfect. I mean, I wanted my first bag to be absolutely perfect. It was nowhere near that, but I'm so glad I got it out, because you've got time to perfect that over time. And if you're waiting for perfection, you'll just never get it done. I advise so many people that, and yet I'd say maybe 5% of them actually ever do what they're wanting to do. So it just takes a little boldness and a little bit of work and some, some hope. So,
yeah. Right. You got to be daring. You got to be daring. You dare to do it.
You do. And it helped for me. I didn't have much to lose when I did it. I was like, well, if I, if I lose 3,000, I mean, that's all I had, but okay, I'm used to living that way anyway. So it was a little easier for me. I think sometimes it's harder for people who are used to having stability in their lives. So it can be more challenging. So I did it at a good time when I wasn't worried about supporting a family and all that. So that helped out too. But, like I said, I think it's not as scary as people make it out to be, and you can do it with a lot less risk than you think you need to do. So
Dude, especially like you said, these days there's so many tools out there, and I really love what you said, man. And just to kind of highlight one of the things that I took away from that is like, if you can ask someone who they're working with, and get that referral through a friend or just someone who's a business owner, or probably even like you said, asking in a LinkedIn group or a Facebook group or something like that, you can probably figure out who someone else is working with. And like you said, not everyone's going to be willing to just hand over that information. But if you ask 20 people, you'll find 3 connections, or something like that. So
I think so.
Of course, assuming you're asking the right people. It can't be your cousin Jeff who works at McDonald's and he probably doesn't know any manufacturers,
right.
But no offense to Jeff, he might.
Sure.
But you get what I'm saying. Like, try to ask a business owner. Like, most business owners, especially people who sell physical products, they usually might have an idea of where to get physical products from, because they got their stuff from somewhere, right? So, if they're making physical stuff, they probably know at least who to ask. They might not even know themselves, but a lot of times a great question is like, hey, if you don't know someone, do you know anyone who might know someone? And a lot of times that's the right question to ask, because they might not know a manufacturer, but they might have a buddy who's big into e-commerce, and that guy knows 20 manufacturers, And so a lot of times you can get introduced to the guy who knows the guy, and that is a little hack for you.
Yeah, that is totally possible. And I just remember too, I forget the name of the one I had ran into, but there are a few companies too that are especially based overseas, that will help you do this. That for a small fee, they'll go, hey, we will guarantee the quality. We'll find your manufacturer. You tell us what you're trying to do, and they're kind of like a middleman, and they will take a cut, usually it's just a flat fee, which is better. But those do exist. Now I forget how I found the one that I did, but they are out there, and that might not be a bad option for a lot of people. If you just can't find another connection, that might save you some trouble. And I swear, one of these days I'm just going to get into something like that myself, some sort of business advising network thing, because I get people, and like great people that have cool ideas, and I wish I could just go, here, let me do a little turnkey thing for you, and I'll set it up, because I'm happy to give people my connections when I think that it would work out. But I'm pretty open door like that. A lot of companies aren't, most aren't. But it would be cool to just maybe that should be my next business. I don't know.
There you go.
That one. Yeah.
Heck yeah, man. You could reproduce Datsusara across every industry. Start with freaking golf. You did jiu-jitsu, then golf. Suddenly we got rock climbing. They could probably use a Datsusara bag. Hey, yogis, they got their freaking yoga mat thing, and they got their Lululemon stuff. Their Lululemon stuff's got to go somewhere, dude. So
right now I'm on an anti-plastic crusade, so that's my big thing. Dude. I'm working on that.
I could talk for an hour about that, dude, but we'll have to do another podcast about that, man, because I got to run and get ready to teach our kids class here momentarily.
Well, good luck. I'm glad you're still going strong on the journey there, and that things are going well for you. It's good to hear from you.
You too, Chris. We'll have to do this again sometime. Thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate you, man.